Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another capsule selection. Today, I'm going to jump into a list for you guys that for me, it's one of the best things about perfumery today, and that's the way that these perfumers are coming into their own and having great blend and balance when it comes to their fragrances. Now, all of these fragrances I have are not new to the actual lexicon of fragrances, but they do have a certain modern take on them. The conceptual take on these fragrances are what we are reaching for, more likely than not, including myself. And I think that bringing this list to you guys is something that you can see, as my opinion goes, that have great blend and balance, meaning I don't think I would change anything about these particular fragrances at all. Now, of course, these are not the only fragrances in my collection that have that appeal, but these are the 6 that I looked at my collection and saw, let me pull these out for my guys and gals to see what it is I think perfect blend and balance is. So if this sounds like the type of content you think you'll enjoy, pull up a seat, pour a glass, and of course, let's enhance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Dry Down, the lifestyle channel where we as enthusiasts aspire to enhance and elevate our olfactive sensory experiences through the understanding of the different aromas, facets, and nuance of scent, cigars, and wine. I'm your host, Chris. Welcome to today's experience. We're going to dive into a capsule selection today, but first I want to do a little housekeeping. I want to bring to you guys the attention of the Ashton VSG Excalibur. This is going to be the next cigar review that I do for you guys. This is one that I've been smoking quite a bit the last few weeks. This is going to be the 4th of that series of cigars that I've smoked, and it is one of the best, well, I'll say this, it's one of the smoothest aged cigars that I've smoked in a while. To me, my take and tone on this one is going to be a great review. So if you guys look forward to my cigar reviews, this is going to be one I do up in the next week to bring to your attention. First, we're going to get into this list, or next, we're going to get into this list. As I stated in the monologue, this is a list that I put together for you guys, and of course myself, to bring to the attention the blend and balance of what these great perfumers are doing for us in the 21st century. I have an appeal for these particular scents, and I don't think I would do anything to change the actual balance, blend, or concept of either of these fragrances. And if you stick around to the last fragrance, it's going to be one that is a vintage fragrance that has been in my collection for almost 20 years. And it is a great fragrance that I think if you find one on the market and it's of 50% more bottle capacity, I think you should pick it up. And because this particular scent has macerated greatly. And this one I'm going to bring to your attention at the end. So stick around to the end of the video to capture that one. But first, we're going to talk about Dulcita Isara. Now, you've heard about this specially made Fougere fragrance on my show or my channel once before. This is one of the best warm, woody, sweet Fougere fragrances that I've come across ever while collecting fragrances. It's one that I've coveted so much that I had to buy a second bottle of this one. She really did a great job. Pisara Umamajani is a great perfumer. She's an independent perfumer, and what she did with this one was have a beautiful clary sage with a Scotch pine needle and a bourbon vetiver. They go over one of the best, I mean, it has to be one of the very best and most expensive ambergris and oak moss bases I've ever smelled. What captures you about this one, the blend is so well, it comes off with a tobacco in it as well, but the tobacco is not one that is just heavily laden with sweetness. This is a very authentic smelling tobacco essence, and it's also one that if you think about it, why do we always categorize tobacco scents for the fall? It's mostly because of the heavy sweetness and sometimes the heavy basis. But what she was able to capture with this one, if you are a tobacco lover like myself and love tobacco fragrances like myself, this is a 4-season tobacco fragrance that is phenomenally made. It's an extrait parfum. It performs phenomenally. If you know how extraits perform, it is not a projector of a mile, but it is one that has great sillage and one that stays on the skin for hours on end. And I really, really enjoy the essence of this one with the tonka bean. Slightly herbaceous, slightly green, but it's more of the clary sage tobacco musk and sweetness of that musk and bourbon vanilla with that ambergris and oak moss base. She did a really phenomenal job in making this fragrance for us in the community. And I think that anyone who gets their nose on this is going to appreciate this as well. It's slightly, I won't say it's a simplistic opening that you will think that the complexity in this one is not going to be there. But once it starts to develop on the skin, you will get the complexity, and the blend is phenomenal. It goes just harmonious throughout the entire fragrance, and you'll enjoy it. So that is the first off, Dulcita Isara Extrait de Parfum. Great fragrance. Next up, guys, we're going to talk about the narcotic Grand Soir by the House of Mason Francis Kirkjohn. This fragrance, as many of you know, I ain't got to tell y'all much about this one, but I will put it on because it is exactly in my wheelhouse of perfectly blended and balanced fragrances. Now, when I speak on that term, just think of the definitions of it. The blend is the molecules coming into perfect harmony with each other, and the balance to me is how none of these actual fragrance cores go too high or too low to give a actual interpretation of one note denoting itself, but it also has a flexion that you can actually pick up each note. So when I say that, it sounds like a contradictory thought, but it's very, very grand and beautiful how they do these fragrances. Because in this one, yes, you do pick up consequential notes of benzoin, you do pick up consequential notes of vanilla, but you also, in the base of this one, and then throughout the life of this one, you pick up all of the tonka cores, the lavender and the Spanish ladanum. And in that, I would not change the pitch and harmony of any of those notes, because the way that it comes off and elevates itself against that benzoin and against that tonka, it's a phenomenal job the way he did this one. And most of these you're going to see in my collection showing up in this particular list of blend and balance are going to be some of the most mass produced or mass appreciated fragrances, because we've all come to love the way these things smell and how to scent these actual fragrances on us for our categories of life, be it business, leisure, evening, elegance, nights out, or daily. And so at the end of the day, this one here is one of my favorite benzoin fragrances. It's not a 4-season scent. I wouldn't wear it in the heat of summer, but throughout the other 3 seasons, autumn, spring, and winter, this is one of the most phenomenal fragrances you can put in your skin, and it is a compliment magnet. And for me, it's the perfect blend and balance of sweet, harmonious, resinous, spicy oriental, and slightly gourmandish touches that come off quite well on my skin. Once again, Grand Soir by the house of Mason Francis Kirkjohn. Ladies and gentlemen, next up, I want to talk about the perfect barbershop fragrance when it comes to the house of Clive Christian. Now, for many of us, Clive Christian is a reach of some sorts, but for me, when it comes to my collection of Clive Christian fragrances, I was very meticulous in the way I put that collection together. It is a fragrance house that has some great blends, phenomenal blends, I must say. Very posh, very elegant fragrances. And at the end of the day, when I pick up a Clive Christian, this one that I've tested, in consumption of that testing, I was able to evaluate it so well that I was knowing that I wanted to full bottle that in my collection. So for me, picking up Cypress by the house of Clive Christian, this is one of the best spicy woody fragrances that has a fresh, green, and natural citrus smelling accords to it that I think any man will love to wear on his skin if he anywhere in any sort of his life, be it casual, upscale, or elegant. This revolves around the base of this particular scent, and that base in conjunction with the heart, very much so bring it to one of the best blooming fragrances on the skin. The heart consists of what it's named after, which is the cypress, but it also contains one of the best ginger, clove, and nutmeg mixes that come off slightly freshly spiced instead of warm spice feeling. So you get these notes and accords that all go over the base of ambergris and cedarwood, while still being compelled to hold on to the top notes of citrus, which is bergamot, and a slightly herbaceous basil accord. And for me, this is one of the best blended and balanced fragrances from the house of Clive Christian. And I hope that you guys can one day get your nose on this one, because also at the end of the day, it not only has that citrus of bergamot, but throughout the running of the fragrance, as I always say, one of the best petitgrain notes in perfumery is done by the house of Clive Christian. And that petitgrain note runs linear throughout the entire fragrance, holding each note structure, pyramid structure, intact with that particular petitgrain. So it runs over the bergamot, it runs through the cypress, the ginger holds on to it, and the amber and cedarwood also make way to have a captivating portion of note structures around the petitgrain. And that cypress, in which it's named after, it's a very subtle cypress, of course. So if you're afraid of the way cypress can feel sometimes, because I know that's a note that always is not accepted as a woody tonality for people. But on this one, he really did a great job with a fresh barbershop style of fragrance. It smells great off the bottles, great off the blotters, and wonderful off the skin. Projects for about 6 hours off the skin. Very powerful fragrance. Then it comes to a settling skin oral style scent for the next 6 hours on your skin. It's very much so one you have to wash off your body, and it is a phenomenal scent. That is Clive Christian by the house, or that is Cypress Noble Collection by the house of Clive Christian. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to splash a little Udin on. And Udin is one of the best fragrances from the house of Clive Christian. As you guys know, I've been in this game for quite some time, and I have an older vintage bottle of of Xerjoff Udin Shooting Stars. And this is by far, when it comes to blending by a house. We know that the house of Xerjoff is one of the best blending houses, especially when they were first out. The new concepts, some of them are structured differently than they were previously, but when it came to Xerjoff, I keep saying Clive Christian, but when it came to Xerjoff, we always knew that going to that Italian house, we would get some of the best Italian citrus accords coming out of a fragrance. And this, man. If you are into emotionally evocative fragrances that can hearken and leave a timestamp on life for you, I don't know if it's just me, because this is one of my very first from the house of Xerjoff, and it was one of my first into the niche realm that was outside the ones that were accessible in my local department stores like Macy's, or Saks, or even Marcus, or even when I would travel and I would find certain fragrances. Udin became one of the mainstays, and it's always going to be in my collection. I keep this particular bottle and the 100 ml, of course, as a reminder of how beautiful this fragrance is, and I actually use my new 50 ml that was developed with the newer bottles. But neither here nor there when it comes to this fragrance. The note pyramid is one of the most spectacular note pyramids in perfumery, in my honest opinions. This is a sweet, citrus fresh fragrance that has very woody and creamy tones. It was once compared, and sometimes often compared, to the scent Allure by Chanel. And I was actually able to understand that, and I get that, so I wanted to say anything against that comparison because there have some similarities in it. And Allure was one of my favorite mid-20s fragrances, mid-30 fragrances when I was into colognes and not into the niche as far as having so much access to them. And so Allure was one of my favorite scents of all time at that point in my life. And to have this one as an elevated style of that particular scent, it comes off so well. It has the perfect tone of lemon and grapefruit in the opening. The mid is built around one of the best in the business, which is a sandalwood, guaiac wood, rose and rum. That sweet tonality along with that slightly floral touch. And the rose is not one that's predominant. It's one that has very much so a laid back essence that really comes into play to give it a contextual feel of a slightly warm, sweet woodiness in the mid. It then goes into the base, which is the calling card for this one, which was ambergris, vanilla, musk, and coffee. And the thing about this one, the coffee accord, you wouldn't suspect the coffee would smell this well with the citruses, but the way that he put this together, the way that they marketed this, the way it brought people in, the way it still brings people in, it's a great performer, great blend and balance, and I would not do anything to change the actual essence of this particular scent. That is Udin by the House of Xerjoff. A great addition to your collection from the Shooting Stars line. Phenomenal. Anytime someone asks me about a great summer fragrance, this is one that's going to be always in rotation of me choosing something to give an evaluation of and give someone my opinion and add it to their collection. If they ask me, it's always going to be one in my collection that I just point to and say, look, if you want something niche, smells of high quality, smells of citrus freshness, and you want to smell just fun-loving, you want to also smell inviting, sexy, and alluring, and something that's still masculine as its tonality, go for Udin from the House of Xerjoff. And I stand by that on my word. Next up, guys, what we have here is Reflection Man. You know this fragrance, so I can't tell you anything about this fragrance that you don't know. All I can say is that blend and balance is the calling card of this particular scent. Just harmonious. An elevated jasmine and beautiful neroli, jasmine, Irish, ylang-ylang, and sandalwood fragrance with a slight touch of cedar, vetiver, and patchouli. The patchouli is the bed of wood on this one, but it holds on to that pimento and rosemary at the top notes. Very much so becoming beguiling, sexy, sensual, also fun-loving, laid back, but it's one of the most legendary fragrances when it comes to blend and balance. This is a very elegant fragrance, and when I mean elegant, I mean you could take this one and carry yourself into certain situations, then the smell alone will give a first impression that you are a professional, you are a person to be dealt with. And that's one of the best things about this particular scent of Reflection Man. It gives you a sense of, it gives the apparatus, not so much the apparatus, I won't say that, it gives a view of you. So the aperture, I'll say, instead of apparatus, I'll say the aperture that's around you is one that very much so goes into, so this is what I'm thinking when I say aperture. Have you ever seen the opening scenes of 007 when he's in this opening scenes and they shoot the gun and then that aperture opens up to show that picture of James Bond? That is this in a bottle. That is that man, that is that essence, that is that draw in, that is that masculinity, that is that becoming and beguiling scent of a man that is assured of himself and wants to be playful while also being austere. And that is one thing about this particular scent that goes off phenomenally. So that depiction is what I'm trying to get to when I say the apparatus of it. You are in that picture frame of a gentleman suited up, but you can also wear this casually. You are one of stature. And that's a great way that Lucas Czak, who was a perfumer of this, did this particular scent. Once again, floral, fresh and sweet. Nicely done fragrance that I wouldn't change a thing about, especially that sandalwood and the Rolly Accord with the jasmine. Just phenomenal the way they did this one. Can never have this not in my collection. Once again, that is Reflection Man by the House of Amouage. Great. Guys, next up, so just before my vintage encounter for you guys, the last one on this list for me is one of the most wonderful Russian leather fragrances in my collection. This is a fragrance that, if you saw my review on this one, this was not even a review, it was an overview. This is a fragrance that reminds me of the way my dad smelled when I was a kid. It was a Russian leather that he wore, and this one here picks up and depicts that Russian leather phenomenally. This one here is run and done by the House of Roja Parfums, and this is Great Britain. And just a phenomenal fragrance, just phenomenal when it comes to the blend of how Roja Dove does it. I say that in most videos that I do put a Roja Dove in, and I think that's because I have a certain connotation, thought process, and the way I smell his fragrances that they really do call to me. And his oils, for me, I love the way they smell. But for this one, the blend of this is so well done and spectacularly done that it has the actual roundness of this one, and the way it pitches and stays at that pitch for hours on end. When you spray this on, the projection of this scent goes for about 3 feet, and it stays at 3 feet for hours on end. Sometimes you can smell this on your body up to 12, 13 hours later. And then as an aura scent, when you lay your head on the bed, you can wake up and smell this on the bed because it's in your skin. This is one of the best Russian leathers. Like I said, it's really truly based around the violet, the leather accords, ambrette, iris, a little bit of oak moss, lavender, and patchouli. But then what really takes the cake in this, and what I love about this, is the styrax and clove of this one. Very, very just sweet, warm, leathery fragrance, and has a slight animalic touch to it that anybody can pick up on and not be repulsed by. They will actually love the way that animalic take on this one smells and feels. The animalic touch of this tones down throughout the mid and then goes into its bed of violet and sage and iris and a little bit of that carrot seed. So that carrot seed is one that you would pick up on. It'd be a peculiar note, but it becomes very alluring throughout the wearing of this particular scent. But at the end of the day, Russian scents to me, or Russian leathers to me, can come off very, very becoming. And this is the best one I found on the market, and this is the one I had to get to remind me of the great man that my father is and was in my life, and raising me and rearing me to be the man that I am today. And that is why this one's on the list, because it's such a phenomenal blend to me. The blend and balance is just a phenomenal take on Russian leather. That is Roja Parfums, Great Britain. So gentlemen, last on this list is a particular fragrance that's been in my collection, I would say at least 20 years now, maybe 19. This is an original bottle of Gucci Poron 1. Now, I know we all know about Gucci Poron 2, which is the sweet, just luxurious tea-smelling fragrance. Many never talked about this, and many still do not. And I know why. It's a vintage bottle. But when it comes to fragrances in this community, and we touched on great blend and balance in this video, this has always been one of the best smelling blended and balanced fragrances in my fragrance collection throughout my life. This is a woody, spicy, slightly oriental and smoky fragrance with resinous touches that goes off phenomenal for spring, winter, and fall. I would spray this on sparingly in the summertime because of the heavy dosage of frankincense, but the blend and balance on this could actually give you some wearings in the summertime that you won't be unappreciative of. It has some of the best note structures in the business. This has a note structure that's almost comparison to a Roja Parfums. It starts out with a nice smoky papyrus and ginger with a tarragon sweetness over bergamot and a nice aromatic lavender. It then goes into a heart of geranium, patchouli, and pimento, which along with the pink pepper and jasmine gives it a great woody essence. Then it goes into this slightly sweet, smoky jasmine and frankincense base that has an amber and musk accords to it, that has a great sage in the base that joins with the lavender of the top that gives us an aromatic feel to it. So it's one that's really, really woody, really robust, really masculine, really becoming and befitting of a gentleman when it comes to this particular scent. And I think any one of you guys who want a blend and balance vintage fragrance, if you can find this on the market, you will be appreciative of picking this one up. Like I said, woody, spicy, sweet, smoky, and phenomenally gentlemanly fragrance. Phenomenal gentleman fragrance that is one that captivates all around you when you wear it. It has not lost a step while being in my collection. It's a vintage bottle, so I won't spray it on a blotter, but I will let you know that every year I pull out this fragrance once or twice, spray it once or twice because I want it in my collection forever. And if you ever have an opportunity to find this particular scent on the market, I implore you to just do the best you can to pick it up and archive it, because it's a great blend and balance fragrance I know you won't be disappointed in, especially men when they wear this scent. So all in all, a great vintage pickup if you can find it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching today. This has been my content for you. This has been me coming forth with fragrances that are great when it comes to harmonizing intensity and unexpected allure when it comes to fragrances for me, but then at the same time bringing one of the best blend and balances from a perfumer to my nose and into my collection, to my fragrance wardrobe. This is one of my first videos of this style. I think I'm going to do more of this because, like I said, in my actual collection, I have many that have some of this blend and balance that I think I would not change a thing about. So instead of me doing a lot of top 10s, those are going to be my style of fragrance where I say this is perfect for me, the blend and balance. As always, I thank you for watching this channel. If you have anything that you found entertaining or educational about this, all I ask that you do is hit the like button, subscribe, send off to a video, or send off to a friend sharing this content. Let them know that we are here. We are a great family building community, and we're going to be here to stay. Until next time, until next video, you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.